Have you ever received your salary, looked at your bank account just a week later, and wondered, where did all my money go? Now imagine your salary doubled tomorrow. Would your life really change? Or would you simply spend more and still find yourself waiting for the next payday? There are millions of people living like a young man named Vince, and you may be one of them. Vince is a supermarket attendant who believed his small salary was the reason he could never become successful. He thought wealthy people became wealthy simply because they earned more. But one ordinary evening changed the way he looked at money forever. If this story inspires you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because here we share powerful stories that teach financial wisdom, discipline, hope, and the choices that can completely change a person's future. And this story may change the way you look at your next paycheck. In a quiet town lived a young man named Vince. Vince was 25 years old. He wasn't lazy. Every morning before sunrise, he put on his supermarket uniform and walked nearly 40 minutes to work. From morning until evening, he arranged products on shelves, helped customers, carried heavy cartons, cleaned the aisles, and spent almost the entire day on his feet. By the time he got home, his legs ached, his back hurt, and his shirt was soaked with sweat. Yet after working so hard every month, his salary was barely enough to survive. He rented a tiny single room at the back of a rundown apartment building on the wrong side of town. Whenever heavy rain fell, water leaked through the roof, dripping into a plastic bucket he kept by his bed. His old mattress lay directly on the floor, thinning in the middle from years of use. The small fan in his room barely worked. It groaned instead of spun, pushing around warm air instead of cooling anything. Some nights he skipped dinner just to make sure he had enough money for transport to work the next morning. Life wasn't easy, but Vince had one habit that made everything even worse. Every payday, the moment his salary entered his account, he felt rich. Almost immediately, his friends would call. "Vince, we're going out tonight. Don't miss the fun." Without thinking twice, he joined them. They visited clubs, ordered expensive meals, bought drinks they couldn't really afford, and laughed as though they had no worries. The music would be loud, the lights colorful, and for a few hours, none of them thought about tomorrow. Vince would order a second bottle he didn't need, just because his friend Marcus had ordered one first. Nobody wanted to be the one who couldn't afford it. Before the night ended, they filled their phones with pictures, smiling as if life had finally become perfect. For a few hours, Vince felt successful. He forgot about his leaking roof. He forgot about his empty kitchen. He forgot about all the bills waiting for him at home. The following day, he convinced himself he deserved it because he worked hard. But the spending didn't stop there. Whenever he passed a clothing store, he found another reason to buy something new. A pair of fashionable sneakers, a designer shirt, a wristwatch he had seen a customer wearing at the supermarket the week before. Sometimes he bought things he never planned to buy, simply because everyone around him seemed to have them. He wanted people to think he was doing well. Without realizing it, Vince was spending money to look rich instead of building a future. 1 week later, reality returned. His wallet was empty. His bank account was almost empty. His kitchen had almost nothing left, just a box of instant noodles and a few packets of seasoning. Once again, he began counting the days until payday, marking them off in his head like a prison accounting time. Month after month, the same story. Salary, celebration, shopping, empty wallet, waiting, again, and again, and again. One evening after work, Vince walked past a small restaurant near the junction. The smell of roasted chicken and grilled fish filled the air, drifting out from an open charcoal grill by the roadside. His stomach growled. He checked his pocket. The money he had left could only buy a loaf of bread. He stood there quietly, watching families enjoy meals he couldn't afford, watching a father laugh as he cut a piece of chicken for his young son. After a few seconds, he turned away, bought the bread, and slowly walked home in the dark, chewing slowly to make it last. That night he lay awake, staring at the cracks in his ceiling. A painful question echoed in his mind. I'm working every single day, so why does my life never change? The following month, nothing changed. His salary came. He spent it. His account became empty. Then he waited for another payday. His life had become a circle that never seemed to end. One Saturday evening, as Vince walked home from work, the sun was beginning to set, painting the sky orange over the rooftops. Children played outside, kicking a half-deflated football in the sandy street. Neighbors sat in front of their houses talking, fanning themselves in the evening heat. As he passed one compound, loud voices suddenly caught his attention. A landlord stood at the gate, shouting angrily, his voice cutting through the calm evening like a blade. Standing before him was a frightened tenant, his shirt buttoned wrong in his haste, sweat on his brow despite the cool evening air. Beside the man were two small bags containing everything his family owned, tied shut with old rope. His wife stood quietly beside him while their little daughter held tightly onto her mother's coat, peeking out at the small crowd that had begun to gather. The landlord had heard enough excuses. Every month it's a story. Every month, next month, next month. Get out of my compound today. The tenant begged for more time, his voice cracking, promising to pay the rent the following month. But the landlord refused. He ordered the family to leave immediately, pointing toward the gate as neighbors murmured and watched from a careful distance. Vince stood silently across the road. He couldn't move. For some reason, the landlord's words felt as though they were directed at him. You work every day, but you never plan. Those words echoed inside his mind, louder than the noise of the crowd around him. He looked down at his worn-out shoes, the same ones he had bought instead of paying his own rent early that month. Then he thought about the tiny room he rented just a few streets away. A frightening thought entered his mind. What if one day, I'm the one standing there? He watched the little girl bury her face in her mother's coat as they carried their bags down the street, and something in his chest tightened. That night he couldn't stop thinking about what he had seen. For the first time, he realized something. Maybe his salary wasn't the biggest problem. Maybe the problem was what he did after receiving it. The next morning, instead of sleeping late, Vince walked into the town library for the first time in his life. The building was small and slightly dusty, but it felt like a different world from the supermarket floor. As he walked through the shelves, one book caught his attention. How to Build Wealth on a Small Income. He pulled it down, turned it over in his hands, and borrowed it. He began reading that evening by the light of his phone, since the bulb in his room had gone out weeks earlier and he hadn't replaced it. It didn't promise quick riches. It didn't offer secret shortcuts. Instead, one sentence stopped him completely. A small salary is not your biggest problem. A lack of a financial plan is. Vince stared at that sentence for a long time under the dim phone light. It described his life perfectly. When payday came again, something changed. His friend called him as usual. Vince, we're going out. Don't disappoint us. This time, he stayed home. He cooked a simple meal of rice and stew instead of ordering food. He opened a small notebook, one he bought for $2 from a stall near the bus stop, and wrote down every expense. Rent, food, transport, savings. For the first time in his life, every dollar had an assignment before it was spent. The change wasn't easy. Some weekends he wanted to return to the clubs. He would hear his phone buzz with a message from Marcus, see the photos his friends posted, and feel the old pull. Sometimes expensive shoes caught his attention as he walked past a store window. Sometimes he almost gave in, his hand halfway into his pocket before he stopped himself. Then he remembered the frightened family standing outside with nowhere to go. The little girl's face pressed into her mother's coat. Quietly, he walked away. Months passed. Nothing changed at the supermarket. He still earned the same salary. He still arranged shelves. He still carried heavy boxes under the same fluorescent lights. But something inside Vince had changed completely. While others spent their lunch breaks complaining about low salaries, sitting on crates behind the store and grumbling about the economy, Vince filled his notebook with business ideas, savings goals, and lessons from the books he was reading. Some people laughed at him. Look at Mr. Economist, one coworker teased. You want to be a billionaire with supermarket salary. He simply smiled and continued writing. Every payday followed the same routine. He paid his rent first, bought only what he needed, cooked most of his meals at home, then saved a small amount before spending anything else. At first, the savings looked insignificant. Some months they barely filled a small envelope tucked under his mattress. later moved to a proper savings account once he'd saved enough to open one. But Vince remembered another lesson from the book. Never laugh at small savings. One day they become great opportunities. 1 year later, something happened for the first time. He reached the end of the month with money still left in his account. He smiled, sitting alone in his room, looking at the number on his phone screen. Not because he had become wealthy, but because he had finally taken control of his money. Meanwhile, many of his friends remained trapped in the same cycle. Every payday they celebrated. Every month they borrowed money before the next salary arrived. Marcus, in particular, had started borrowing from 3 different people just to survive the week before payday, always with a new excuse and a tired smile. Years passed. Vince kept learning. He read books on business, discipline, investing, and personal finance, moving from one borrowed library book to the next. After work, he spent his evenings studying instead of wasting time, sometimes falling asleep with a book still open on his chest. Eventually, he started a small side business, selling phone accessories from a small table near the bus stop on his days off. It wasn't glamorous. Some months it made almost nothing, barely covering the cost of restocking. But he refused to quit. Slowly, his savings became enough to buy a small piece of land on the edge of town. The kind of lot nobody else wanted because it was too far from everything. Years later, that land became his first rental property, a modest 2-bedroom house he built slowly, room by room, as money allowed. The rent from that house helped him build another, then another. He never rushed. He never borrowed money just to impress people. He built slowly, carefully, patiently. One afternoon, Vince walked along the same road where years earlier he had watched that family lose their home. He stopped and smiled, not because he had become the richest man in town, but because he no longer feared losing the roof over his own head. A few years later, Vince completed his own modest house. The day he received the keys, he stood quietly inside the empty living room, the smell of fresh paint still in the air. He remembered the nights he had gone to bed hungry, the days he had spent his salary within 1 week, the fear that his life would never change. He walked slowly from room to room, running his hand along the walls, before he closed his eyes and whispered, "Thank you." Not long afterward, his mother came to visit. She walked slowly through every room, touching the walls, running her fingers over the window frames as if she couldn't quite believe it was real. Then she looked at her son with tears in her eyes. Vince became worried. "Mom, what's wrong?" She smiled through her tears. "When you were younger, I used to worry that your salary would never be enough to give you a good life." She looked around the house once more, shaking her head slowly. "I was wrong." Vince hugged her tightly. Neither of them said another word. Sometimes love doesn't need many words. Years later, people no longer knew Vince as the supermarket attendant. They knew him as an honest businessman, a disciplined investor, a landlord who treated his tenants with kindness because he never forgot what it felt like to struggle. Whenever a tenant faced genuine hardship, Vince listened before making a decision, remembering the frightened family he had watched years earlier standing outside with their whole lives in 2 bags. He never forgot where he came from. Many people believe a small salary is the reason they never build wealth. But often, the problem isn't the size of the paycheck. It's the absence of a plan. Vince's salary didn't change first. His habits did. He stopped trying to look rich and started learning how to become financially secure. He discovered that wealth isn't built in one payday. It's built one decision at a time, one saved dollar at a time, one good habit at a time. Remember this. You don't have to earn millions before you begin changing your future. You simply have to become faithful with what you already have, because a salary can feed you for a month, but wisdom can provide for you for a lifetime. So let me ask you one final question. When your next paycheck arrives, will it disappear, or will it become the beginning of a different future? Tell us in the comments. What is one financial habit you're going to change starting today? If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs hope today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.